Remember when everybody said print was dead? Like, it's all going digital, right?
Yeah.
Turns out somebody's still got to make those designs look amazing, even on paper.
Yeah, the physical world, it's a whole different thing. It's not just about the design, it's how it comes to life on the page.
Mhm.
Like you got to think about the color, the texture, how the ink even works with different paper.
It's a whole art form, and that's what today's deep dive is all about. We're uncovering the secrets of the image setter.
Hmm.
This is the role that connects that digital design to the actual, tangible product.
Yeah.
And before you think this is just ancient history, trust us, there's a lot to learn here, even if you weren't around in the days of like dark rooms and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the image setter, it's a perfect example of how technology changes a job. It doesn't always disappear, but it definitely shakes things up.
All right, let's get into it. So we've got some excerpts from RoleCatcher.com, their whole career guide on image setters. And we'll get into their AI interview prep tool and job platform later. But first, the basics. What did an image setter actually do back in the day?
So think of them like the conductors of the printing process.
Oh.
They were masters of these really specialized machines, using film and paper to get those designs ready for printing. And it wasn't just hitting print. RoleCatcher's guide, it really emphasizes how precise this role was. Image setters, they had to get everything perfect. The alignment, the colors, everything had to be spot on for the printing process.
And get this, the guide says knowing computers and electronics was more important than speaking the language. Blew my mind a little bit. What's the deal with that?
Well, because these machines, they were basically early computers, right? Pre-digital printing, you're talking complex software, all these settings, a lot of technical stuff.
So not just putting paper in a machine, they were practically programmers.
In a way, yeah. Bridging that gap between the designers with their creative vision and the technical side of printing.
This is making me look at old magazines totally differently now. Okay, so we've got these super skilled people running these complex machines, and then digital printing comes along. What happens to the image setter?
Well, you can imagine digital printing, it was a huge change. Everything got faster, cheaper, and like any big technology shift, there were some casualties. Demand for the old image setting, those machines, it started to go down.
Which brings us to the big question. Is image setter a dead-end job now? And here's where RoleCatcher gets a little weird. They mention that decline, but then they say high demand and potential for freelancing are good things about the job. What's going on here? Help us out.
It's a good question. And it shows how the job market works. Jobs, they change. They don't just vanish. And that's what we're seeing with the image setter.
So the classic role, maybe that's fading, but RoleCatcher is pointing at some other options.
Right. And to get those options, we got to talk about niche markets.
Niche markets. It's like the buzzword of the century, right? But what's it actually mean for someone with, these old school image setter skills?
It means there are these little pockets where those skills, they're like gold. Think about it. Digital printing, it's great for like mass production, churning stuff out. But there's still a place for that handcrafted feel.
So we're talking like those high-end projects where
Yeah.
every detail matters.
Art books, limited edition prints, even like fancy packaging for expensive stuff. That's where you might see someone wanting those traditional image setter skills. Someone who gets color, paper, ink, in a way that, maybe digital can't quite match.
So smaller pool of jobs, but the people who have those skills, they're even more in demand. They've got that specialized knowledge.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Those image setter skills, they're not stuck with those old machines. RoleCatcher, they list a bunch of digital roles where those skills transfer right over.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, you've got your prepress technicians, digital printers, even someone doing animation layouts. They all need an eye for detail, knowing how to manage color, how visuals go from screen to page, all that stuff. That's classic image setter territory.
Okay, so it's less about the actual machine now, more about the fundamentals of the craft,
Yeah.
right?
And that's why this is interesting for someone thinking about careers. It's bigger than just those old machines.
It's about finding where those skills are still needed, even if the job title's changed. And speaking of finding stuff, we've got to talk freelancing. Could you see someone building a freelance career around this today?
Totally. In fact, I think that's where it gets really interesting. All those small print shops, design studios, maybe even individual artists, right? They don't need a full-time image setter, but they might need those skills once in a while.
So you're the go-to person when someone needs a brochure to look amazing, or they're doing a limited run of art prints, something like that.
Exactly. And that's where something like RoleCatcher comes in, connecting those specialized skills with the people who need them. But we'll get to that.
Okay, before RoleCatcher's tools, let's get into the job itself. RoleCatcher actually breaks it down by experience level. Like, what does an entry-level image setter do versus junior versus senior?
That's cool. You can see the potential career path, even now. So entry level, maybe they're assisting, processing images, getting files ready. Junior level, maybe they're doing more complex color stuff, working directly with designers.
And a senior image setter, they're like running the show.
Pretty much. Managing a team, big projects, maybe even training people. It's like that old school apprenticeship thing. You learn the craft from the ground up.
Love that. And RoleCatcher doesn't just list tasks. They have these example profiles for each level. Shows how someone's ambition, their skills could actually grow.
Way more interesting than just a list of duties.
Right.
Right. You see how it translates to a real person's career.
Yeah.
Makes it feel possible.
It's like peeking into the future. Okay, so image setter role, the changes, the career paths. But let's bring RoleCatcher back in. How do their tools actually work in this world we've been talking about?
Oh, their job platform is especially interesting here.
So you've got all these people who need really specific printing stuff done, and then there are those skilled image setters who might not even know those jobs are out there. RoleCatcher's platform, it's like the missing link, right?
Yeah. I mean, that traditional image setter role, it's not as common, but those niche jobs, they're definitely out there. And RoleCatcher's platform with the job board and everything, it's like a filter. Helps you zero in on exactly what you need, even stuff you wouldn't find on your own.
It's like having your own personal, what do they call it, a headhunter, except it's for these kind of hidden jobs. And you mentioned international stuff too. That's pretty cool.
It is. And it's not just about finding the jobs, but seeing what they want you to know. Remember we were talking about how skills evolve? Well, RoleCatcher's platform, it actually looks at job descriptions and figures out exactly what skills are in demand.
So even if the job doesn't say image setter outright, you might see those core skills, the color management, that sharp eye, all that.
Right. It's like a cheat code for the job market.
I like it. So RoleCatcher helps you find the jobs, decode the skills. What about their interview prep stuff? How does that work in?
Okay, so picture this. You got an interview. Job needs those image setter skills. Maybe it's a classic print shop or something totally different. Like a museum needs someone to restore old maps, you know.
Love that example. Okay, so you're in the interview. How does RoleCatcher help you nail it?
It's all about the questions. They've got questions just for people with this background, not your usual generic interview prep stuff like, tell me about a time you had to fix a problem with an image setter, or how do you make sure colors look right on different materials?
Oh, those are getting specific. You better have some good answers.
Exactly. And that's where the AI feedback comes in.
Yeah.
Helps you polish your answers, make sure you're saying the right things, showing off what you know from experience.
Yeah, like having a little coach right there with you.
All right.
All right, we covered a lot. The image setter, how it's changed, the career possibilities, and how tools like RoleCatcher come in. What are some big takeaways for our listeners?
I think the big one is just because the world's going digital doesn't mean those specialized skills are useless. They can be really valuable and lead to some really cool, unexpected jobs.
It's about being open, right?
Yeah.
Technology changes the game, but it also makes new opportunities. Like we saw, image setter skills. They can work in digital roles, freelance, all kinds of stuff.
For sure. And don't forget, stuff like RoleCatcher, those resources exist. They can help you through all that.
Your guide, your researcher, even your coach, all in one. All right, any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
If this whole image setting thing, if it speaks to you, don't think it's a dying art. Do your research, see what's out there. Who knows? You might find your own little corner of the design and print world.
Nicely said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. Imagine that print shop, the smell of ink, the sounds of the machines. Could that be your future? Or maybe there's another path out there inspired by all this, just waiting for you to find it. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep.